Conference report. Okay, I'm uploading. I've had some audio, various troubles. I've had to upload it 2 times. I'm uploading an attempt to break down consciousness, do a little analysis on some of these terms. That's in response to your saying that we just don't have the right terms, they don't make sense, and I think either that's you're trying to flee the subject, or you're going to have to say, oh, so first thing is we sort out the terms. Well, I spent some time sorting out various terms, not so much directly consciousness, but all the cognitive terms that it relates and depends upon, like knowledge, action, things like this. So, in this video that I'm replying to, you've gone even further, and you made an argument that it's as if we're on a search for essentialism, which is wrong on just many counts. But for one, if we found out what consciousness was, so let me take a model of consciousness I don't agree with. Neurocomputational theory of consciousness, that a computer that's fast enough, that could do enough computations per second, could become conscious. If I knew that, or any other theory of consciousness, it wouldn't be that consciousness is our essential self. It wouldn't make consciousness more essential than DNA or carbon or the laws of physics. Or there is no essential. Nothing is essential. It's not a search for essentialism, because even if we found it, it's not like we found the soul. So people that are looking for a new replacement for the soul, yeah, that's one category, but it has nothing really to do with trying to explain why we have this subjective experience. And then that's the second point. You were trying to act as though this is like trying to find out the essence of motility. But I don't believe in Aristotle's qualia. I don't believe that there's essences and qualia attached to essences or any of that stuff. Right? What we have is a phenomena. We experience a subjective experience. We have no explanation for it. We also observe other creatures acting as though they're having a subjective experience. In the case of humans, they tell us. In the case of mammals, they are so similar in their behavior and in their construction, we can deduce this. We have to explain this. This is not trying to get to some essence that doesn't even actually have to be. There doesn't have to be a nature of motionness in a car. Okay. And we don't need a nature of motionness. That's not what I'm looking for in the consciousness. And here's where you're getting confused, and you can see in my breakdown. We have to separate the subjective definition of what consciousness means from the theoretical objective version. On one case, we have a phenomena we're trying to understand. In another case, we've related that phenomena to observances. We can observe behavior that to us reminds us of the phenomena, because we can do tricks like we can feel on the inside of ourselves and take a video camera and see how we were acting and make certain, inductions and deductions about what that might mean to other behavior, even though we can never go inside and feel it. Right? So this is not trying to explain, like invent a property of motionness and then try to explain where it is and what. This is not an invention like that. We have a subjective experience. You don't seem to understand where you're arguing yourself into as well. Because if you're going to continue with, it's too confusing, what's it really mean? It's just like going for essences. You have to stop using the concept of consciousness. It's like in my case. Definitely there are cases where you say, hey, those terms are muddled, and it means I don't even want to go in that direction. Like, how many angels fit on the heads of a pin? I don't think that the definitions make sense to answer that question. I don't believe they can be sorted out. I'm not interested in sorting them out. I have nothing to gain. But as a result, I don't then go, and the reason I believe in this is because exactly 100,000 angels fit on the head of a... it's just like you don't use that at all. But you use consciousnness. You have a reaction, even an emotional one. Nothing wrong with that. I think that's great. To me ascribing consciousness. You're not just like, oh no, it has nothing to do with it. You shouldn't ascribe it to anything. It plays a role in your view of where you are in the realm of consciousness. So you're going to tell me this is a totally unusable term, and yet you build things on top of it. So we have to either repair that term, or you would have to, to be consistent, remove any, not just tenets of consciousness, but really any views of consciousness, except possibly one that it's so incoherent we should never even talk about it. In which case, What are you going to name this hard problem experience we have of being the creature, being the thing experiencing? What are you going to call that? You can't explain it, but still, we can give it a name, right? Stream of some, not consciousness, I guess, or I think what would be best is to slow down. Let's talk about the word consciousness. Let's do some of the breakdown. You can find that there are lots of senses of consciousness and other terms like this, and some of them have more technical validity and use, and you can focus on those. Because otherwise, you're just saying, look, I have a worldview based on consciousness turning out a certain way. Like I have it, mammals have it, plants don't have it. It has to turn out that way, and I'm afraid if I go in there, it won't turn out that way. And that's not quite intellectually proper. If you're like, I don't want to go over there, it's a waste of my time, then you can't have a result that you're relying on that you could only find out if it's a correct result by looking more closely at that. So you either have to say, yes, we could talk about it, or you have to stop using the results of your own thinking. You know what I mean? Otherwise, the talking is like, well, I'm going to think about it. I'm really just saying that I don't want to have to face any other arguments about it. I don't want to have to correlate it and get it all worked out. But you think you have it worked out. You think plants aren't conscious. I still don't know about bugs and stuff, but if it's all neural, animal type creatures, I don't know. But somewhere in there's this gradation, and you rely on it, and then you can't. But I rely on it, but I have done the work to make concrete definitions, so I know what I mean when I say that a creature is aware. I know what I mean, and I can explain what I mean. Okay, so there's no cop-out of, the language isn't sufficient, or anything like that. And if you're just a person that's like, I don't like questions like that, it's all crazy, then that's not you, right? Because you have engaged. You do have views that depend on how this stuff works out. So let's dive in and see how it works out.